All right, if everyone could take their seat, we'll go ahead and get this meeting started. All right, welcome to the Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 meeting of the Escondido Planning Commission. If you could please rise and join me in the flag salute. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could get the roll call, please.
Chair Weiler,
Here.
Vice Chair Spear,
Here.
Commissioner Maccaro,
Here.
Commissioner Jester, Commissioner Stevie,
Here.
Commissioner Correll, Commissioner Gustafson,
Here.
Moving on to the minutes. Any discussion? If not, we can move forward with the motion. I'll move to approve the minutes of October 28, 2025. If we can get a second.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Spear. We can get the roll call.
Motion to approve the October 28th, 2025 meeting minutes. Chair Weiler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Spear,
Approve.
Commissioner Maccaro,
Approve.
Commissioner Stevie. Approve. Commissioner Gustafson.
Yes.
The vote is 5-0 to approve the October 28th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Thank you. Any written communications on any items not on tonight's agenda?
None.
Any oral communications?
None.
Then we'll move on to the public hearing. So we have the Maple Downtown Specific Plan Amendment, Development Agreement, Plan Development Permit, and Design Review Permit. Any disclosures? I have to recuse myself. I just want to make sure that there's no bias on my part. I've had some minor involvement with this project. So Vice Chair Spear will take over from this point.
Okay, thank you, Chair Weiler. We will go ahead and we'll turn the time over to you, Ivan. You have a presentation.
I do. Thank you, Vice Chair, and good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Ivan Flores, Principal Planner with the Planning Division, and I'll be presenting on item 2, which is a request by John Stack to construct a 128 multifamily unit apartment project in the downtown specific plan area. As discussed in the staff report, the project includes a request for several entitlements, including a specific plan amendment, a development agreement, plan development permit, and a design review permit to facilitate construction of the project. The specific plan amendment would amend the downtown specific plan, which I will refer to as the DSP for the remainder of this presentation. The amendment would allow for ground floor residential uses on the site and an increase in the allowable height. The development agreement, among other things, will transfer 50 units from the density credit pool and pay 2 in lieu fees related to open space and the required number of trees for the project. The plan development permit and design review permit will allow for construction of a 128 multifamily unit apartment project, along with the use of tandem off-street parking spaces and reduction of the required amount of open space. If the specific plan amendment is approved, then the plan development permit would also include the ground floor residential use allowance. The 1.04 acre project site is located at Lot 1, which is currently occupied by a city parking lot, which is on the south side of West Valley Parkway. The site is surrounded by a mix of commercial and office buildings and borders Maple Plaza. Additionally, it's approximately 0.4 miles east of the transit center and essentially located in the downtown. The project site has a general plan land use designation of specific planning area 9 and is zone specific plan. Specifically, the property is within the DSP, and within the DSP, the project is within the historic district land use district. The DSP guides development in the downtown area, which is envisioned as a dynamic and lively city center, which includes a range of housing opportunities to support the economic viability of the downtown. Based on the analysis in Attachment 2, the project, inclusive of the specific plan amendment, is consistent with the overall goal and vision of the DSP as detailed in the adopted 2012 general plan. Before I go into the next few slides, I would like to begin by outlining the order of the remainder of the presentation due to the various actions before the Planning Commission this evening. The next 2 slides will discuss the specific plan amendments in detail and what changes are being proposed. The 3 slides that follow those will focus on the development agreement and the associated terms and conditions. Next, we will then discuss the regulatory framework as it pertains to the parking requirements. And finally, I'll provide an overview of the project plans, including the site plan, floor plans, and elevations. The project includes a request to amend Figure 2.4 of the DSP to remove the ground floor office or retail requirement on the subject site. The DSP allows housing in different configurations. For example, the green area only allows for residential uses. Orange prohibits residential. The light yellow requires it on the second floor. The purple allows it in the ground floor subject to interior commercial design standards. And the yellow hashed out allows ground floor residential subject to plan development permit. As discussed in the staff report, the city over the last few years has amended the DSP multiple times to allow specific sites with ground floor residential uses subject to a plan development permit, including but not limited to the Rowan, Senior Quince Housing, and Palomar Heights. The project does not include units directly on the ground floor. However, the building's ground floor consists of ancillary uses that support the residential units, including the parking garage, leasing office, mailboxes, and bike racks, among other things. Based on the categories in which residential uses are permitted throughout the downtown, the most appropriate designation is the utilization of the ground floor residential allowance. While the project would remove the requirement for ground floor office or retail, approval of the project would not impede the goals of the DSP due to the introduction of higher densities within the downtown core area, with an emphasis placed on the commercial corridor known as Grand Avenue. The second request associated with the specific plan amendment would establish a height overlay to permit up to 65 feet in height and an additional story for a total of 5. As detailed in Attachment 2, the general plan encourages the use of overlay zones to implement specific standards such as the requested height increase as a means to achieving the goals of the general plan and specific plan in which the overlay will be located in. The DSP currently allows up to 85 feet and 6 stories throughout the downtown. Due to the high-density nature of the project and the lot size, the applicant proposes an additional story over the maximum of 4. The building at its tallest point would be 61 feet and is consistent with the goals and the visions of the DSP, which encourages taller buildings in the city's downtown area. The entirety of the specific plan amendments are included as Attachment 4 to the Planning Commission staff report for reference. The project also includes a request for a development agreement to establish terms and conditions of the development of the site. Generally, the development agreement outlines public art and reconstruction of Maple Plaza, the collection of certain fees, and to participate in the city's density transfer program to transfer 50 units of the subject site to the subject site from the density credit pool. I'd also like to make a quick correction to the staff report related to the number provided for open space. The applicant will be providing 24,990 square feet of usable open space, not 24,900. Regardless, the fee shown on the screen is based on the correct number. As discussed in the staff report, the city has received requests over the last few years regarding high-density projects and their inability to provide all the required amount of open space, which is 300 square feet per unit. Specifically, Table 3 in the staff report notes that projects that propose up to 70 dwelling units per acre appear not to meet that requirement and have requested reductions in accordance with the DSP. In an effort to meet its open space obligation, the applicant proposes a mix of private balconies and common open space areas consisting of lounges, outdoor amenities, and indoor recreational areas. The applicant will pay $109,827 that is to be paid prior to the building permit issuance for the remainder of the open space. While the project is deficient in its required open space, the provided open space areas functionally serve the residential units in that they meet the required dimensions to be counted towards private open space areas. Additionally, the project is located along a pedestrian linkage to Grape Day Park, and the DSP encourages activation of the park through increased densities in the historic district. The project also includes minor modifications to Maple Plaza, and they will be limited to removal of some of the existing tables, relocation of the trellis to the west by a few feet, and removal of the tree planter to accommodate fire access. Over the processing of the application, city staff had met with the applicant multiple times to discuss redesigns of Maple Plaza. However, after further discussion and in light of the Grand Avenue project, it was determined that improvements to Maple Plaza would be considered at a future time to improve connectivity with Grand Avenue. Additionally, the applicant has invoked AB 2097, which prohibits a local agency from enforcing minimum parking standards on an eligible project site that is within half a mile of a major transit stop. Based on this aerial image provided, it shows that the project is within that half-mile radius. Additionally, all parking that's provided by the applicant is considered voluntary parking. While not a requirement of the Escondido zoning code or the DSP, the applicant has provided a parking study that demonstrates that the supply of parking in the downtown area is sufficient to address demand in the immediate area due to the loss of Lot 1. Based on the study area, it was determined that only 42% of the 2,399 spaces were occupied during the weekday peak hour of 1 p.m., and that there are approximately 1,200 to 1,600 spaces available in the study area to accommodate vehicles that will be displaced by removing Lot 1. The figure on the screen shows the amount of parking that is available during the peak time for on-street and off-street parking. Now that we've gone through the legislative entitlements, the next few slides will focus on the actual building. The project will provide pedestrian access along West Valley Parkway and at the corner of Maple and West Valley Parkway. The project will retain the existing driveway, which will serve as the only vehicular access into the building. The project proposes to provide up to 113 off-street parking spaces, including a mix of standard spaces, tandem, and compact. The garage will also contain several of the private storage areas that are required for the development and will be accessed via overhangs. The planned development permit would also allow the use of tandem spaces and cannot be provided for more than 25% of the residential units, and the applicant will not exceed that threshold. As shown on the plans, the applicant will include landscaping along West Valley Parkway and Maple Plaza to screen the parking garage. The applicant will also incorporate decorative pavers within the sidewalk to encourage a pedestrian environment. The site plan as proposed is consistent with the goals of the DSP, which encourages bringing buildings closer to the street edge to strengthen the connection with the public realm. On this slide, you'll see the layout of the second floor. The third and fifth floor generally follow the same unit layout and are included in the project plans attached to the resolution as Exhibit B1. Approximately 15% are studios, 48% are one-bedrooms, and 37% are two-bedrooms. As you can see here, the outdoor amenity is located on the second floor. The siding of the outdoor amenities in that area serves as a natural break of the building and avoids large expanses of walls adjacent to the alley. The outdoor recreation area will contain trees and landscaping, dining tables, a pool and spa, and space for outdoor barbecuing and lounging. Furthermore, private storage is provided throughout the building for use by the residents. The project includes a variety of materials such as wood trellis for the balconies, cement plaster for the exterior of the building, storefront glass along West Valley Parkway, and aluminum to screen the parking garages. The use of these building materials is consistent with the building material policies of the DSP, which encourages the use of materials typically associated with urban environments, such as concrete, stone, metal, and glass. The project also includes natural materials such as landscaping along West Valley Parkway to enhance the pedestrian experience along the street. Furthermore, the proposed project includes artwork along the alley, which is also encouraged by the DSP. The project includes design elements that avoid box-like structures, such as including a differentiation in the material and breaking up the massing of the buildings via walkways that connect the buildings. The building at its highest point would be 61 feet in height, with components of the building exceeding the proposed 65-foot height allowance. However, the Escondido zoning code currently allows exceedance of those height limits, which includes elevator shafts. The only portions of the building that exceed the height requirement would be the elevator shafts. Despite the request to increase the height of the building, the project has been designed in a manner that is consistent with the DSP policies as it pertains to building material, building orientation, building design, and improving the pedestrian environment. On this slide, we see the west elevation, which will face Maple Plaza. The project will provide access directly to Maple Plaza, which encourages activation of the space and is a pedestrian linkage into the city's downtown. The project also includes the landscaping along the project's west elevation to screen the parking structure. The east elevation faces a vacant commercial building and includes balconies to enhance the visual interest of this elevation. Additionally, as detailed in the conditions of approval, the applicant will be required to submit for review and approval of a public art piece prior to the issuance of a building permit. Pursuant to the CEQA guidelines, the city reviews the proposed project and determined based on substantial evidence that the project is within the scope of the previously certified final environmental impact report prepared for the general plan, downtown specific planning updates, and the climate action plan. The final EIR is attached to the Planning Commission staff report for the consideration. In accordance with section 15164, an addendum to the final EIR was prepared, and all applicable mitigation measures from the final EIR have been incorporated as a condition of approval, and a revised mitigation monitoring and reporting program was prepared for the project. Based on the analysis contained in this staff report and as presented during the public hearing, city staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2025-10, recommending that the City Council approve the project subject to the conditions of approval. That will conclude staff's presentation. We are available for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you for that presentation. Appreciate it. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation or any comments?
I was in front of you. We were in the Lefty Mitchell room, and I must compliment you on your new name tags, or name signs. With me tonight is our design team. We have our architect from Steinberg Hart, Vincent Mudd, our landscape architect from Schmidt Design, Chris Hewitt, our civil engineer from Rick Engineering, Kelly Drews, our environmental consultant from Recon, Morgan Weintraub, and the parking consultant who did the study in your staff report from Walker Consultants, Stefan Turov. Each of them are here to answer any questions that you may have concerning the details or technicalities of the project. Also with me tonight is the president of Kings Barn, Mr. Phil Nader, and the manager of development for Kings Barn, John Stack. They're here to answer any questions you may have concerning the company or their intentions for this project in the future. So I would like to, Mr. Flores did an excellent job of showing you the project, so I'd like to address my remarks to a bit of an overview, and I think that we have a very unique opportunity in front of us tonight. I've been involved in downtown revitalization for 45 years, I chaired what was then the Downtown Revitalization Commission in 1980. And all these years, we have struggled with the chicken and egg problem of we need more shops and restaurants on Grand Avenue to attract people. On the other hand, we need more people to support those shops and restaurants so they can survive. And how do we get that? And it's kind of like an engine, is you have to jumpstart it to get it going, or a pump that you have to prime. And the city has spent a lot of money over the years trying to prime the pump. We've spent millions on infrastructure improvements in sidewalks and roundabouts. We spent millions trying to find a attraction such as the Center for the Arts, but we still come up against that problem of which comes first, the chicken or the egg, the people living there or the shops and restaurants supporting them. When we did the downtown specific plan in 2012, we tried to answer that problem by drastically increasing the density in the downtown specific plan. Up till that time, I think the highest densities were the U4 before that general plan amendment, which only allowed up to 24 units per acre. And in the downtown plan, as I know you're aware, we allow 75 to 100 units per acre, trying to attract people who would live down there and support the revitalization. And that's met mixed success. I couldn't help but notice in your agenda tonight, the first thing was approving the minutes for the KB project at Quince and Valley that you approved unanimously last week. That's on a piece of property which is zoned for 100 units per acre because it's right across the street from the transit center, and yet the developer proposed and you approved 24 units to the acre, less than a quarter of what was allowed. And that's not an anomaly. That is what the market demands these days. That's what we've been seeing on Escondido Boulevard under construction now. You have the Canterbury project, that's 27 units per acre. You have the Portofino project, that is 30. You have the old Hacienda de Vega, that's 26. Across the street from City Hall, you have Latitude 2, that was 36, which is kind of pushing that bubble of 24 to 36, which is what everybody wants to do. Right down the street, it hasn't come to you yet, but it will be coming to you shortly in the next couple of months, Storm Properties project, which is at Valley and Center City Parkway. That will be 24 units per acre. We have seen some higher density. Under construction on Quince and Valley now is the project at 96, but that is affordable senior. There have been virtually no high-density market rate products. Palomar Heights, now Marlowe, which was to be the big project downtown, as you know, that came in at 36 units per acre. So we have not seen the high density. This is really the first one. Well, actually the second one. There was an earlier one. I think it's mentioned on page 20 of your staff report, the Ivy, which was approved in 2019. The developer of that project hired Cushman Wakefield, who spent a year marketing it to every developer in Southern California. And in that year, they did not get one offer, not one. Not one person could figure out how to make that high-rise in Escondido work. Ended up selling it to MAC, a affordable housing developer who thought they could make it work because they had a state grant. Unfortunately, that grant fell through, and that project 6 years later has never been built. So this is really the first market rate, high-end residential project that we've succeeded in landing for downtown Escondido. And the question is why is it that this one can come forward? And it's due to a very fortunate confluence of events. The first is that this is the last piece of public property in all of California that is exempt from the Surplus Lands Act. As you know, in 2019, that act was passed, which requires that any public piece of property must be put up for bid for affordable housing before it can be sold to a private developer. And that went into effect in 2019, but it had an exemption that its application would be tolled if the escrow was held up because of litigation. And as you recall, this piece of property had a project proposed for it in 2019, the Aspire project, which was denied by Council 3-2, and that ended up in litigation. And I guess the silver lining of that litigation is that it has told the Surplus Lands Act all of these years. So at this point, the city has been able to enter into a settlement agreement and has permission. We've talked to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and they agree that this property is exempt for the Surplus Land Act and it can be sold to a private developer for market rate housing. And it is the only one in all of California, and so that's made this possible. Now, that didn't solve the financial difficulties, but we have another fortuitous event, and maybe it's not fortuitous, it was a result of some good planning by city officials, is this property is in the opportunity zone, which makes various tax advantages available to it. Specifically, if it is held for 10 years, all capital gains will be waived. And that gets us to our third fortunate event, which is the arrival of Kingsbarn on the scene, which is a real estate investment company that split off from BlackRock. Mr. Mader started it about 5 years ago and needed to build a portfolio for their investors, and this property came to their attention. And his business model is not to just get this entitled and sell it to a builder, but to build it and operate it and keep it for 10 years, thereby qualifying for the opportunity zone benefits. And because of that, they can make this property work. Now, it's tight because of construction costs, and once you go above that 36 units per acre, now you can't have surface parking. Everything has to be in the building, and that's what drives up the construction costs. A lot of those projects I mentioned to you earlier are 3-story walk-ups with surface parking, which makes their cost of construction lower, and therefore they can have lower rents. This project is going to have the highest rents in all of Escondido. We're watching the Marlow real closely, hoping that by the time this is built, those 510 units will be absorbed and they will have proved the market for higher rents because we're going higher than they are. But we think we can get it because we also think this is the prime spot in all of Escondido to have luxury apartments right on Maple Avenue. So you come out of the building and you turn left and you're on Grand Avenue, and you turn right, you're in Grape Day Park in the Center for the Arts. What could be better? So they are confident that they can command the higher rents, and with the tax advantages allowed by the opportunity zone, those will be enough to make this 5-story building work financially, so they can go ahead and build it, and we can finally achieve a high-density, high-end market rate project in downtown Escondido. I'd like to just take a few moments point out a few things about the design. On your screen, this is I think that bicycle is right there. That's coming out of the traffic circle at City Hall. So this is if you were in front of City Hall looking across the street. And what this is showing is basically the project is going to participate in the arts program with a mural on the eastern wall there. We've met with the representatives of the Art and Public Places Commission. It's too early to pick out an artist, but when we get closer, then we'll figure out whether they have a good artist or whether we need to find our own. But that part of the side of the building will be a mural. The building's also going to participate in the alley art program. If we could go forward a little bit. There. We're looking, this is in Maple Plaza, looking down that alley. That alley will all be part of the alley art program, ESCO alley art program, to bring it over to the north side of Grand Avenue. We're also talking to the art folks about during construction, instead of just putting up blank canvas all around the construction fences, we're looking at doing a program where each school in Escondido gets a panel to decorate however they see fit, and we'll use that art to decorate the site during construction, with the idea that then the one that will have a panel to pick the winner, and that will become a permanent placement on the alley art. If we could go back to the views at the beginning, okay, so the last project for this site was criticized by some as being too modern and not fitting in with the surroundings. So this King's Barn took some care to work with staff, went through a number of iterations. And what you see here is trying to incorporate some of the arches from City Hall, some of the green lattice work to match both City Hall and the arches and the shade structures in Maple Plaza. Also, in order to minimize the bulk and scale of the building, it's a story lower than what was proposed previously. Also, it's been divided into 3 separate building blocks with breezeways in between. So instead of giving the appearance of one big monotonous building, you have the more variation on the facades, and it looks like 3 smaller buildings. If we can go to the next slide. One of the issues that was important in the design is the last design had the main entrance on Valley Parkway, sort of kind of across from where the traffic circle was there, and had a small retail shop there on the corner. And after discussions with members of the DBA and city staff, we thought a better solution was to move the entrance to that corner so the entrance to the building is right onto Maple Plaza. And that way the pedestrians coming out of the building will come out onto Maple Plaza. They can turn right and go over to Grape Day Park in the Center for the Arts, and they can turn left and have a nice walk right there onto Grand Avenue. So we think that will create more activity and activate the plaza. We also thought that that the purpose of the building is to provide customers for downtown, not to compete with it. So we thought it would be better to have the entrance there rather than another retail shop. So we thought that made better use. You can go ahead a little further. Yeah, there's a closer shot of the entrance. The problem with the entrance over on Valley Parkway is that basically made the building as kind of an obstacle. People come out on Valley Parkway, and then there's this big building that they have to go all the way around to get over to Grand, whereas this will allow direct access onto Grand. Next slide. Yeah, that's just more shots of the entrance. Here's what it'll look like from Maple Plaza. There's the alley where the art will be. And the parking, as staff pointed out under AB 2097, the building is not required to provide any parking, but obviously they want to provide as much parking as they can. So this is what they've done is they put as much, they got one floor, which is essentially it's on an acre, so that's about an acre floor. The current surface parking lot has 110 spaces, and they managed to get 113 in there. But that's as much as you can physically get on that on that site. So they have maxed out all the parking they can possibly get there. And that means that there will be the need for some surface parking, hence the Walker study, which I think was in your staff report, which found that within that area, even on a peak hour, there's 1,200 to 1,400 spaces available within the downtown area. So the 15 spaces required by the building shouldn't have any kind of significant impact. Keep going. And this was just close up on some of the amenities on the ground floor. If you can go to the final slide. Well, this is showing some of the amenities, the pool areas. Let's go to all the way to the last slide. There we go. Is because they're going to be pushing. I mean, right now, for example, at the Marlowe, the rent structures are basically just under $3 a square foot to the higher threes. This project is going to start at the mid threes and go up into the fours. And therefore, they're having to really justify that kind of rent. And so they're going with a really luxury amenity package with Amazon package delivery rooms, gourmet kitchen, not only a pet run, but a pet spa where you can wash your dogs and pets. So basically they're going to go high end on this, both in terms of the amenities, all the finishes, the appliance packages, even the window treatments. They're going for extra large windows to take advantage of the views and to create more spacious feeling inside the apartment. So they're going to basically try to make this the nicest apartment building in Escondido to justify being on the nicest site. And if all works well, they'll be bringing 128 new households with disposable income to Grand Avenue. So that's kind of the overview I wanted to give you. And like I said, the consultant team is here to answer any questions you have about the design or the building. Anything for me?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate both your presentation, the thoroughness of it, the background, and for bringing the individuals here to be able to help and answer questions. Let's go ahead and open this up. Do we have questions for staff or the applicant? I don't know that I have any questions. I think you did a pretty good job of answering my questions, both in what you presented and the presentation by staff, which I'm grateful for. I appreciate having the context, both in the chart that you provided in the staff report that compares the other projects that are comparable. That was very helpful. And also the context that you provided was a good summary to give us some context in what we're looking at today. Let's see. Do we have any other requests for speakers at all? Yep, go ahead.
I might have missed it. So you have the 113 parking spots. They have 113 parking spots as part of this project. There's 100 parking spots there now currently for downtown businesses. How is that being mitigated? We're losing 100 parking spots for downtown retail?
So the applicant is providing 113 parking spaces for residential for the residential
Right.
units.
Right.
As a part of the review, the applicant did provide a parking study to justify that there is sufficient parking in the downtown area.
Right.
And so they're not required to provide those public parking spaces. the intent of the study was to show that there is capacity in the surrounding area to support those business uses.
So therefore, through the study, it shows that it won't affect negatively impact the current businesses on Grand.
I may have to defer to the consultant who prepared the parking study.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Vice Chair, I'm Stefan Turoff. This is actually my third or fourth time, I think, working in this area. It's been a long time. It's great to be back and see how well Grand Avenue is doing. So there are the spaces that are there today. And in the study, the first thing we found is that I believe it's about 3/4 of those spaces are parking employees. They're people who are parked at the peak for 4 hours or more. So with that, we tend to think, that long a stay in any commercial neighborhood is not somebody who's shopping or eating for 4 hours. It's an employee. And that makes a big difference because employees are a little more malleable as to where they can park. We say walking distances can be farther. At the same time, the lot was not filling. So we're not trying to replace, we didn't see a need to replace all those spaces. And at the same time, by and large, it's an employee parking lot. We would suspect somewhat for the commercial uses on Grand. Also, maybe for those employees at the Civic Center who work on this side of the Civic Center. But then finally, at the peak, which was weekday lunchtime, which we see in virtually every city we've studied here. And I've personally studied about 70 different cities, commercial districts in Southern California, multiple times. Weekday lunchtime is the busy period, and yet during that time, you have about 1,500 spaces in the area. So if we have the building here, if you lose those public spaces, then there's plenty of capacity right now to absorb that. So that's a long way of getting to the answer, I think, to your question, which was, will there be an impact? No, because there are so many spaces. Now, some people, for example, some employees might not be able to park as close to their jobs as they would like. When I think of, we say in parking, every parking trip begins and ends with a pedestrian trip. I'm based here in Southern California. We are nationwide. I've done this work in my company for 20 years. Mainly I work in Southern California, but in the Wausau, Wisconsin, Omaha, Pittsburgh, people still walk. And then I think of like places we've worked, like San Marcos, Vista here, and I think this is the idyllic climate. It's flat. So yes, some employees may now have to park on the lots north of the Civic Center. It's a little farther walk, but this is a very nice area to walk. And when we say, we don't want to inconvenience customers, employees, if there's a higher and better use for land use, yeah, we do push them out there. And that's what we see. Over 1,000 spaces, that's an awful lot for any commercial use. So no, we don't see a negative impact.
That was the question. Thank you.
Okay.
Very well explained.
Oh, good. I like to talk about this. I tend to ramble on. So
No, it's
good.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
While you're still up, let me follow up.
Yes.
We're talking about two components. One is the existing parking without this project. And from that standpoint, we have 1,000, so roughly additional parking that can be absorbed. And then I think the number was about 15 surplus parking was the estimation from the project itself that didn't get covered by on-site parking. So that 15 is minuscule in being absorbed as well with
Yes.
that 1,000, right?
I mean, the area along Grand is popular. We think different households will have different amounts of parking. But one thing as we were working on this that we try to emphasize is, somebody who has 4 cars, we always hear, what about the 4-car household? Is not going to be drawn to this project. Somebody who maybe works here at the Civic Center, maybe commutes to Cal State San Marcos or the hospital. We think that those people are going to be drawn here, and 15 cars, yeah, they'll adjust. And we point out in some aspects, your other off-street parking, especially at night when residents are here, is plentiful. And right when I got here, I drove around and I saw some of these lots, 3, 4 cars, and it says no overnight parking. But even at 6 p.m., they're not being used. So yes, 15 15 cars in this vast sea of parking spaces, if you will, yeah, we think that's very manageable.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay.
Parking, thank you, sir.
Oh, okay.
I think it's to the applicant. So, just for my edification, what was the idea behind making this, I mean, obviously financial, but the idea of making this rental rather than selling these units for sale?
Commissioners, I'm Phil Mader, president of Kings Barn, and to answer the question, multifamily rental apartments, especially in this condition where you have a downtown and an infill location, and most importantly, it's in an opportunity zone. So in order to take advantage of the tax savings for the opportunity zone, you have to hold the asset for 10 years. And so with rental apartments, we can hold that for 10 years. If we did condos and we sold them, we wouldn't obviously qualify because we wouldn't be holding them for 10 years. So that was really the reason.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Did we have any speakers request?
No.
Okay. We'll go ahead and close the public testimony. Any comments or discussion? Yeah.
I'd like to take a minute to opine on this, if I might. So first of all, I want to say to the group behind Kings Barn, a couple of commendations. I think this project is beautiful. I think you've done a great job of incorporating the aesthetic of Escondido, such as it is, to the degree that we have a design language. I think you've grabbed it, and so thank you for doing that. I also think you bring a really great upscale opportunity right to the heart of our downtown. And, you know, I feel like that is a bold move on your part, given the history that was very carefully outlined by your counsel before us this evening. I want to take a moment, though, to address the issue of parking, because I have a very distinct perspective on this matter. And I would invite our city attorney to put on her earmuffs at this moment. No, I'm kidding. So this project, I think, you know, we're anticipating taking over a very well-used lot behind some of our downtown's most popular destinations. I'm thinking of like Felipe's, for example. It's an institution in the city. And, you know, my family, we've been here for 4 generations. We came here in the early 1900s, and we've seen a lot happen here. And when they contemplate coming downtown, it's to Lot 1, right? I respect the fact that you commissioned a study at your own expense. I recognize and put on the record that the city didn't ask you to do this. It says, you know, hey, look, there's an abundance of parking downtown and it's underutilized, and concludes that on balance there shouldn't be any sort of business impact to losing this lot. I think that this study is probably technically right, but I think it's perceptionally wrong. Regardless of how many spots one might be able to find in a satellite view of the area, the perception by residents is that parking is already challenging in our downtown. And in my perception, this commission should validate that opinion. Escondido is first and foremost a suburban community built for cars. And I recognize that, you know, the popular sort of avant-garde types in the urban planning world believe that cars are a problem and that parking spots are undesirable and residents need to get with the mass transit program. I don't personally share that view. I'm of the opinion that cars are a form of freedom in a way that mass transit never will be. And I also think Escondido's economics, more importantly, will continue to rely heavily on spending from families who drive cars, especially from estates and from places like Valley Center. People come to North County, Escondido, with their economics because they want land and they want freedom, and cars give them both of those opportunities. I don't see walkability and mass transit driving our economics in the downtown for at least another decade at best. And to this end, I think business owners who need to make payroll next week and rent next month can't rely on the faraway dream of a carless utopia. However, perception being reality, I think if people perceive that parking is a problem in downtown, I think they'll perceive that the downtown is inaccessible to them, and I'm concerned that's going to be bad for business. However, all of that I've just said, I don't think is your problem. So in my opinion, counterbalanced against the parking perception, the loss of Lot 1, which I do think is going to be unpopular for residents in the short term, counterbalanced against the parking perception problem is a factual problem that Grand Avenue does not have enough foot traffic. Again, your council laid this out as the chicken and egg problem, and he's exactly right. As one of the members of the Grand Avenue subcommittee, looking into the revitalization of Grand Avenue, probably trotting well-trodden paths of people before us, if I understand the history, the bottom line is that there's not enough foot traffic on Grand Avenue. And when I speak with business owners and developers, one of the things that's super clear to me is that having foot traffic, and specifically having residences immediately proximate to the businesses, is a critical indicator of investment, and specifically a desire to do any sort of redevelopment on Grand Avenue. So not only does your project impressively improve the overall household count by trying to leverage a higher density than others are doing, but you're purpose building it with Class A amenities to bring higher income households, and you're putting them right next to downtown's most beloved businesses. So for that, you're to be commended. And in my opinion, this bold move on your part will drive foot traffic and grow revenues for all businesses on Grand. I think it is, in my opinion, up to City Hall and this Planning Commission to be more thoughtful about what we're going to do about parking in the future, to not take a hostile mindset toward cars, but to be more innovative and creative about how we create clear opportunities for parking in a way that meets the perception problem that the downtown has, and also creates maybe other opportunities for synergistic development with projects like this. So for that, those are my comments on the Lot 1 loss for the record. And again, thank you for all of your work.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I will just say thank you to Commissioner Stevie. I think that was well said, and I am in agreement, and I would like to commend those that have put forth this project as well. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a second. Can we call for the vote?
Motion to approve resolution number 2025-10. Vice Chair Spear,
Yes, approve.
Commissioner Maccaro,
Approve.
Commissioner Stevie,
Approve.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Approve.
The vote is 4-0 to approve resolution number 2025-10.
Congratulations. We will take a minute, and before we move on, we will invite our chair back if he is able to hear us. We'll wait for him. There he is.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, Vice Chair Spear, for chairing this item. It's much appreciated. Moving on to current business. Any current business we need to discuss? Future agenda items by anyone on the Planning Commission? Saying none. No
None.
oral communications? None.
None.
Planning Commissioners report? Anybody have anything to report? Saying none. City Planners report. Future agenda items.
I wish there was more to report, but everything is really being pushed till next year. We have a few things, a couple projects, private development, 70-unit townhome, and then
a PD for an office to residential conversion, which should be coming your way next year. Similarly, for our policy work, that's also being drafted at the moment and should be coming your way early next year, February, March, around that time. And same thing with our informational presentations regarding CEQA and the North County Mall permit history.
Okay, thank you. Any idea, are we having 2 meetings in December or only the one?
At the moment, there's no additional meeting besides the one that you
Okay.
have.
All right, thank you. Yep. Let's see. Anyone have anything else they'd wish to contribute? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.